The register beeped. She didn't look up. "She's slow," the woman in red said in Korean, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Probably doesn't understand anything anyway." A few people in line shifted. Not uncomfortable. Watching. The cashier kept scanning. Same pace, same rhythm. Like she hadn't heard a word. The woman smiled wider now, leaning in. Typical. Still, no reaction. Then the cashier finished the last item, set it down, and finally looked up. Calm. Too calm. Like she had been waiting. In clean, effortless Korean, she said, "Your card was declined." A beat. Then softer. "And your pronunciation is worse than your attitude." Silence. Not the normal kind. The kind that spreads. Because the man standing beside her hadn't moved. And he wasn't looking at his fiancée anymore. He was looking at her. And for the first time, someone important noticed her. She didn't wait for reactions. She turned the screen back, reached for the next item. Transaction complete. Like nothing had happened. But something had. Because Amani Peters didn't miss things. She measured them, stored them, used them when it mattered. 25. Atlanta, by way of survival, not nostalgia. 10 months in Seoul, not for adventure, for margin. The kind you calculate down to the last number. Full scholarship, linguistics. A bank account that never stayed comfortable long enough to forget it. So she built a system. Morning classes, evening shifts, late night study. Repeat. No wasted motion, no unnecessary attention. Because attention always came with a cost, and she had nothing left to spend. The store helped with that. Soft lighting, polished floors, customers who expected to be seen but not challenged. Amani learned it in 2 days. Not the shelves, the patterns. Which manager avoided conflict, which customers mistook silence for weakness, where the cameras didn't fully see, which exits didn't ask questions. She adjusted, reduced herself to what the room allowed. Hair pulled back, voice measured, presence minimal, controlled. Because control was the difference between staying and being removed. And Amani Peters did not get removed. Not from rooms like this, not from anything. Which was why, when the room shifted, she noticed. Not the movement, the reaction to it. Conversations lowered, staff straightened, space adjusted. A pattern she hadn't seen before. So she followed it, not with her eyes, with her attention. To the man standing across her register, still, watching. Not the screen, not the card. Her. And what Amani didn't know was that this was not a customer. This was Do Kim, and that one sentence, delivered without hesitation, had just placed her directly inside his world. Amani Peters did not believe in luck. Luck was for people who could afford surprise. She believed in patterns, in timing, in arriving before trouble had a chance to name her. Her alarm rang at 5:40 every morning, not 5:35, not 6. At 5:40, she could move with precision, shower, dress, tie her hair back tight, press the apron flat with her palms, leave her apartment at 6:25, walk into the Gangnam store at 6:52, not because anyone checked, because she did. The store was beautiful in the way expensive things often were. Soft lights, polished floors, imported shelves arranged like museum pieces. People did not come there because they needed anything. They came there to be seen needing the best version of it. Amani understood that quickly. She also understood the other thing. Places like that had rules no one said out loud. Smile, but not too much. Be useful, but not memorable. Help, but never rise. So she adapted. She learned which customers wanted obedience disguised as service, which manager disappeared when a wealthy voice became sharp, which guard watched reflections instead of faces, which camera near the wine aisle missed half a step to the right. She learned everything, because the more a room tried to control you, the more important it was to know where it blinked. That was why she felt it before she saw him. The shift. Not in sound, in behavior. A conversation near the imported tea section cut off too quickly. A staff member straightened without knowing she had. Even her manager hesitated, and men like him only hesitated for people richer, stronger, or more dangerous than themselves. Amani looked up. The man entering the store did not scan the room. He moved like the room had already been prepared for him. Tall, dark suit, clean lines, neck tattoos visible just above the collar like a warning he saw no need to hide. He was not trying to be intimidating, which meant he was. He walked toward her register, not fast, not slow, direct. Amani placed the next item on the scanner. Beep. Same sound, different air. And when he stepped fully into her line, the store did not simply notice him, it settled around him. Then the woman in red slipped into place beside him, smiling like the room belonged to her too. Amani scanned the first item, and without knowing it yet, she had just stepped into a story that was no longer hers alone. He placed 3 things on the counter: still water, dark roast coffee, a folded newspaper. No extras, no impulse buys, no wasted movement. Amani scanned the first item. Beep. The second. Beep. Then the woman beside him tilted her head and spoke in Korean, soft enough to pretend privacy, loud enough to guarantee humiliation.
느려.
She's slow. Amani kept scanning. The woman's lipstick curved. She probably doesn't understand anything anyway. A customer in line shifted. Another stopped pretending not to listen. That was how rooms like this worked. Wealth performed. Everyone else watched. Amani set the last item on the counter. For 1 second, she let the silence build. Then she looked up. No anger, no embarrassment, no need. In clean, effortless Korean, she said, "Your card was declined." A beat. Then, softer, sharper. "And your pronunciation is worse than your attitude." The room stopped. Not quiet. Stopped. The woman in red froze first. Not because she had been insulted, because she had lost the weapon she thought only she could use. Amani turned the payment screen slightly. Invitation, not argument. Proof, not performance. Then she felt it. The man beside her had not moved. He was not looking at the card, not looking at his fiancée. He was looking at her. Not casually, carefully. Like he had just found something he had not expected to find in a place like this. The woman recovered a second too late. "What did you just—" But the moment had already left her. The power had moved. Everyone in the room knew it. Even her. Amani printed the receipt and set it down. Transaction complete. As far as she was concerned, the scene was over. As far as the world was concerned, it had just begun. Because by 2:14 the next morning, a 17-second video of the exchange was online. By sunrise, it was everywhere. Black cashier humiliates rich woman in perfect Korean. Who is she? Wait, is that Do Kim? By the time her manager called her into the office the next day, Amani already knew something had shifted. There was an envelope on the desk. Cream-colored, unsealed. Her name written in Korean. Inside was a single card. Private floor. Better hours. Better pay. Fluent Korean required. No application necessary. 3 days. Amani read it once. Then again. Then closed it. Because this was not an offer. It was a hand reaching across a line. And when she asked who sent it, her manager hesitated just long enough to confirm what mattered. Do Kim's office. Amani lowered her eyes to the card. The register moment had not ended. It had followed her home. And now it was waiting for an answer. Amani accepted on the second day. Not the first. The first day was for reaction. The second was for decision. She did not ask friends what they thought. She did not call home. She did not dress the moment up as destiny. She looked at the facts. Better hours, higher pay, a more controlled environment. And one variable she could not yet read, Do Kim. That was enough. The building itself did not announce power. It assumed it. Glass, steel, quiet. The kind of lobby where every surface reflected money and none of it begged to be admired. Two men stood near reception without standing like guards. Cameras overlapped. Elevators required permission not just to open, but to choose a floor. Amani noticed all of it, because rooms always told the truth before people did. The 41st floor was worse, or better, depending on what frightened you. It was beautiful in a controlled way. Warm lighting, city view, 4 tables placed far enough apart that no one had to pretend privacy. A bar without visible prices, carpet that softened footsteps, walls that did not need to speak because the people in them already knew their value. Nothing here happened by accident, which meant everything meant something. Amani learned it the way she learned language. First, by listening. Who approached first? Who waited to be approached? Who expected eye contact? Who expected fear? She learned the exits, the service corridor, the staff stairwell, the placement of cameras, the almost blind spot behind the bar. Almost. On his 3rd visit, Do Kim arrived without announcement. He did not need one. The building shifted before she turned. A lowered voice, a straighter spine, a silence that widened instead of fell. Amani finished adjusting a glass, then looked. Dark suit, same stillness, same sense that movement obeyed him without instruction. He took the table closest to the glass. Positioning, not preference. She approached when the timing was exact. "What can I bring you?" "Black coffee." Nothing else. She brought it. Set it down. Turned to leave. "Temperature." She stopped. "The room is 2 degrees warmer than yesterday," he said. Amani turned and met his eyes. "Yes." A pause. "It suits the length of your meetings better." That made him look at her fully, not as staff, not as background, as a problem worth solving. "Does it?" he asked. Efficiency usually does. His mouth did not move, his expression did not break, but something in the air did. Amani stepped back, returned to her place, externally unchanged, internally not. Because this was no longer just a better job. It was a system, and for reasons she did not yet understand, the man at the center of it had started to notice how she worked. Which meant the real question was no longer who Do Kim was, it was why he was paying attention. By the end of the week, Amani stopped pretending the changes were coincidence. Her schedule shifted first, not randomly, precisely. Her hours now lined up with his. Then came the smaller things. The room cooled before shorter meetings and warmed before longer ones, matching the observation she had made once. A tea she had paused on for less than a second appeared in the staff cabinet 2 days later. Her break time moved to a window no one else seemed allowed to touch. Nothing was explained. That was what made it louder. Then she found the envelope in her locker. No name, no note. Inside, a gift card to the academic bookstore 3 blocks from her campus. Amani stared at it for 5 seconds, then closed it. Because knowing where she studied was not generous. It was personal. She waited until his next visit, not because she was nervous, because timing mattered more than courage. He arrived early. The room was only half occupied, enough witnesses to matter, not enough to interrupt. Amani placed the coffee in front of him, turned to leave. Amani. Her name. No title, no distance, no mistake. She turned. He was still looking at the document in front of him when he said, "The bookstore. Did it cover what you needed?" Amani set the tray down, stepped closer, not too close, enough. Do Kim. That made him lift his eyes, fully. You adjusted my schedule. Silence. You altered the room. Another silence. You placed something in my locker that required knowing where I study. Still she held his gaze. Still he held hers. No raised voice, no scene. That was what made it dangerous. "I need to understand something," she said. "Are these decisions you make for your employees?" A beat. "Or are they decisions you are making for me?" The question landed cleanly. No accusation, no softness, just truth sharpened into shape. Do Kim leaned back slightly, not retreating, thinking. "He arranges things," he said at last, "for people who are useful to me." Amani considered the answer, then shook her head once. "That's not what I asked." The room did not change, but the tension in it did. He watched her with something new in his eyes, not irritation, not amusement, recognition. "You notice more than most people," he said. "That's also not an answer." She picked up the tray, paused, then added, "If I don't accept arrangements I don't understand," and walked away before he could decide whether to stop her. Behind her, the room continued as if nothing had happened. Glasses clinked, low voices resumed, the city burned quietly beyond the glass, but his coffee sat untouched, and everyone who understood power knew the same thing. For the first time in a long time, someone inside Do Kim's world had asked him a question he could not control, and he had let her walk away with it. The threat came early. That was the first sign it was real. The lounge did not open for another 18 minutes when the elevator moved. Staff were still setting glassware, checking placements, calibrating the room to the exact silence it preferred. The elevator should not have opened, but it did. Amani did not stare. She adjusted her position slightly and caught the reflection in the back glass behind the bar. Two men, dark jackets, eyes that moved wrong, not appreciating the room, mapping it. She kept aligning stemware, correcting an angle by half a degree, letting her hands stay calm while her mind moved ahead of the moment. Not staff, not clients, no hesitation. Which meant access or confidence. Neither belonged there. And they had not seen her yet. That was the only advantage that mattered. Amani turned as if moving between tasks and slipped into the service corridor. The instant the doorway covered her, her pace changed. Not faster, cleaner. She pulled out her phone. 41st floor. 2 men, not scheduled. Before open. Send. No greeting, no explanation. She moved for the stairwell she had marked on her first day. Every step controlled, every sound chosen. Down 1 floor, then 2, then to the loading level below. She locked the door behind her and only then allowed herself to stop. Not to panic, to assess. Her breathing stayed even. Her hands stayed steady. Fear was only useful when it sharpened you. Her phone vibrated. Where are you? Not, are you hurt? Not, what happened? Just, where? Loading bay, 39. I left before they saw me. The reply came at once. You left. Then, stay there. She sat on a supply crate facing the stairwell, spine straight, phone in hand, eyes on the door. Listening. Not for footsteps, for intent. 4 minutes later, the door opened. Do Kim stepped through and stopped. Not because he had to locate her, because he had already seen enough. She was there, seated, composed, unharmed. For 1 second he didn't move. Too still, too long. Then he crossed the room fast, not reckless, but with a control pulled so tight it was almost violence. He stopped in front of her, close, closer than the 41st floor ever allowed. His eyes moved over her face, her shoulders, her hands, checking, not appearance, damage. I told you I was fine, Amani said. Her voice remained level. That was when she saw it, not in his face, in his hands, held too still at his sides as if motion might become something he refused to unleash. Amani. Just her name, but it carried weight now. His hand lifted slowly and touched her cheek, lightly, carefully, not claiming, confirming. Then he lowered his forehead to hers, and for the first time nothing about him felt arranged. His breath left him slowly. Amani placed her hand against his chest. His heartbeat was fast, alive, real. Above them, something violent was already being handled. Below them, something quieter became impossible to deny. Because danger had entered his world, and instead of breaking her, it had shown her exactly what she meant inside it. He did not take her back upstairs. Not that night. He took her somewhere else. A private residence that did not display power because it had long ago stopped needing to. Warm light, low furniture, silence that felt chosen rather than enforced. It was the first place around him that did not feel like strategy. Amani noticed that immediately. An older woman sat near the window in a jade robe, posture easy with the kind of certainty money could not buy and fear could not shake. When Amani entered, the woman looked at her the way experienced people look at storms they have already survived. Not curious, assessing. She stood, took Amani's hands, turned them over gently. "You left before they saw you," she said in Korean. Not a question. "Yes." The older woman nodded once, as if that answer told her enough about everything else, and moved away to prepare tea. No introductions. None needed. When they were alone, Amani sat across from Do Kim with the warm cup between her palms and finally asked the question she had been building since the register, the offer, the locker, the stairwell. "I need clarity." He said nothing, so she continued. "The position, the schedule, the gift. Tonight." Her eyes held his. "Is this what you do for people who work for you?" Silence. Then the real question. "Or is it what you do for me?" For the first time since she had met him, Do Kim did not have an immediate answer. His shoulders lowered slightly. Not enough for most people to see. Enough for her. "I have arranged things for people," he said. "For years." He paused. "I have never once learned where they study." The words landed softly, which made them heavier. "What I do," he said, quieter now, "is deliberate." Another pause. "What I feel is not the same." The room went still in a different way than before. Not tense, certain. Amani exhaled slowly. That's clearer. Not surrender, not refusal, recognition. The threat disappeared within days, quietly, completely. The kind of disappearance that meant powerful men had decided memory itself was optional. The 41st floor changed after that. Access tightened, movement restricted. One permanent security detail assigned only to her. Protection, not surveillance. Chosen, not managed. Time moved. Amani finished her semester at the top of her cohort. Her name began to carry weight in rooms that had once looked through her. She still worked the private floor, but no longer as someone temporary, and Do Kim stopped pretending she was. He came to her apartment on a morning lit soft and gold. She was barefoot in her kitchen, hair loose, kettle in hand, when the knock came once and the door opened before she answered. "You didn't wait," she said. "I've never been good at that." He stood there holding a small box, looking more exposed than uncertain. "I practiced this," he said. "How many worked?" "None." That made her step closer. He opened the box. White gold, clean lines, one stone catching the morning light, the exact shade she had described once without realizing he was listening. Amani looked at the ring, then at him, and understood the difference instantly. Everything before this had been arranged. This was not. This was being offered. She nodded once. Yes. The words settled between them like something inevitable finally spoken aloud. He exhaled, stepped forward, rested his forehead against hers. Her hand found his chest again. Steady heartbeat now. Steady hand. Steady choice. Amani had come to Seoul to survive. Instead, she had done something far more dangerous. She had been seen, and this time she had chosen to stay.